Have you ever tried coffee in a wine glass?
No.
They have the
So,
best experiences ever. This is why I love it here.
no, I haven't.
Yes. Can we, sir? That's a Jamaica Blue Mountain, right? Yes.
Where are you from? Ah, nice.
This is really cool. If we have time, can we show her afterwards how you guys make this? I'm sorry, but it's like, don't you feel already fancy?
Yeah,
Like, can
I
you
do.
drink a coffee like every morning? Thank you.
That's how I want my coffee to be served in the mornings
Right?
now. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
And look at that. Is it very hot?
Is it very, no, it's not that hot, right? That's how
Oh my
I
God, that's
look
so
at that.
cool.
That's incredible.
I love it. Okay. Oh wow. And is this like the experience you guys have here? You can try different type of coffees. It's like degustation. Yeah. Ah. You have Yemeni coffee. Really? Oh my God, I'm gonna bring my husband here. Ah? Also, I love that.
Yeah, that's what I love
See, that's
about
why the
them.
energy of the coffee is amazing. Because female energy is amazing.
Ah, that's exactly it.
I love it.
Thank you.
Thank
But
you
that's
so
what I
much. Thanks.
love about them as well. Like it's a female-owned farmers, and they're very ethical sourced.
I love it.
Just the story behind them, it's like just amazing. But guys, can I see the package of the coffee? That's what it is,
Oh, nice. I'm going to buy some today.
right?
Yeah.
You guys have to try this. This is so amazing. Like this is literally one of my favorite coffees. Just like the experience that we have here, that's what I do when I come here. I love it. Thank you, love. Can I give that to you? All right. I've been waiting for this conversation with you for, I believe it's been 4 years.
Oh, my God.
It's been 4 years, and I just want to say the story real quick, okay? So, I was, before I came to Dubai, I was living in LA, and I was researching for my brand, how to get my brand out here, and, you know, what kind of people live in Dubai, because we always have that perspective of the Middle East is looked at in a certain way. And I'm not going to lie, I felt the same thing. And I am Middle Eastern myself, but I grew up in Switzerland and then in LA. So I was like hesitant to be like, okay, can I see myself living in Dubai? And when I went on LinkedIn, I was looking for, how to get my brand into the Middle East. And then you popped right up
Oh,
on my
wow.
computer. And I was like, who is this woman? And to me, it's so fascinating because there's like some women that are the boss, but in the public.
Yeah.
But then there's the boss behind the camera, right? And you're that person. And I started like researching. I was like, who is this woman? Like how she looks, how she talks. I was like, I need to know her. And I just want you to tell me a little bit about how you got into this position. A little bit about your background, because you're not from Dubai. You're Lebanese and Palestinian, but
Correct.
grew up in Canada, and then
Canadian
moved to
too, yeah.
Dubai 23 years ago.
Absolutely.
So just tell me like how you got here and how you were able to work with one of the biggest companies in the world.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, first of all, wow, this story really, there's nothing more precious than knowing that you've impacted one life in any shape or form. And this is, at this point in my life, is probably the most important things for me. When I grew up in Montreal, I always, I had an amazing life, alhamdulillah, and I was very exposed because my parents, my dad's Palestinian American, my mom's Lebanese. They met in Paris, and then we
Wow.
moved around. They got married in Paris, and then we moved to Saudi first. We were in Riyadh, and then we immigrated to Canada in '88. So I moved, I was a teenager. I was, a bit younger than my daughter is today. And it was a very difficult move for me because although a lot of people are like, how did you live in Riyadh and etc. But for us, it's about friends and family. And that's what you're leaving, right? You don't care when you're younger what you can and can't do because you're always with your friends.
Right.
Canada really shaped me. We went through a lot of different things, but one of the things is that education in Middle Eastern homes is so important. And, they are conditioned and we get conditioned that we need to go down a certain route of our, education in order for us to be, valued. So I had to do the traditional thing where I went into law school and, they were going around the world telling people, oh, my daughter's in law school, etc. And I hated it. And that's not at all what I wanted to do.
Right.
So from a very young age, I was infatuated with fashion, with entertainment, okay? Because the idea of fashion shows I used to love and how it made me feel. So I started organizing fashion shows in school, then in university, then I started working for young designers there, etc. This is a very long, introduction to tell you that somewhere inside me, I always yearned to be in the Middle East. So I've always, our parents raised us with a lot of the Middle Eastern rituals and values, but I always felt, no matter what, that I want to kind of have that, So we used to go in the summers to Lebanon, to Beirut, and I loved that.
Even when you were in Canada and the culture was so different, you didn't want to become like them, because that's how it usually is, right? You were like, no,
Lyda, the thing is that the becoming like somebody, and this is something I talk about a lot now that I have a teenager, is you try to fit in.
Right.
You don't feel that you belong. The feeling of belonging is when you're not trying to fit in, right? And I tried for a very long time, and I fit in, but I don't know how. Look, I was very lucky because my best friends and my parents were able to create an environment also of belonging. My best friend, who I've named my second daughter after, her name is Lulwa, which means pearl. We call her Lulu. That was my second home, and we partied together, we grew up together, we did all the mistakes together. So I always had somebody that had the same set of values as me around me. And then eventually a lot of my friends in uni were people that came from the Middle East to study in Canada. But then when they left after university, I felt a huge void. So I followed them. This is just to say that one of my best friends moved to Dubai in 2000, and he was talking about it. I went to visit Lebanon for Christmas, and then I said, I'm going to go see Omar in Dubai. And that was 2002, January 2002. And I loved it so much, I said, there's no way I'm leaving here. So I started interviewing like crazy, and, and interviewing in this place of the world, and something we can talk about later. Interviewing is all about networking. It's not about applying or finding a job online or whatever. It's about networking. And there used to be this amazing place in Dubai. It's still there, but back then Dubai was tiny, and there was this amazing sushi club restaurant called Chocho, and that's where everybody met after work. So that's where I met the HR manager of a company that is called Azadea today, but they had the franchise of all the Inditex brands, which are Zara, Massimo Dutti, Bershka, Pull&Bear, etc. And they were looking for a brand manager. I was 24 years old. I had already had some experience, a lot of passion in it. There was no talent at that time that knew retail or this type of retail, so I was hired quite on the spot. And I was given the opportunity to go and train with Bershka in Barcelona for 2 months, a month and a half. And that's what made me, as a 24-year-old, take the job on the spot. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to go live in Barcelona. So that's how I started in a proper organization to learn the foundations of retail and of a business. And I worked for them for 5 years. And then Chalhoub Group, I was able to meet them in 2006. And I got my first job at Chalhoub Group to manage the Ralph Lauren operation for the Middle East.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how I started at Chalhoub, basically.
How old were you when you did
when I started with Chalhoub was the year I got married. I was 29 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you said something very interesting. You said in the Middle East, it's all about the connections that you have, right? To get a job. It's not like just back in the US or Europe, where you just apply and with your resume and all that stuff. If someone doesn't have that, because I feel like that needs to be you need a talent to be able to talk to someone, right? So if someone doesn't know the places or how to get that job, how can someone learn that? What advice would you give them?
So first of all, I don't think it's a Middle Eastern thing. I
Right.
tell everybody all over the world that it's your network that's going to get you places.
Right.
I don't know when the last person that applied on a LinkedIn job, LinkedIn, please don't kill me, that was able to get the job that way. I'm not saying about sending a private message to somebody. I'm saying literally applying to a careers website, etc.
Right.
It's very rare. I believe that, and you know what, women are always so scared of the word networking, because the way that we see it in our head is the way that it's been happening all this time, which is you have to go to an event that you don't know anybody at, you're wearing a suit, you have your business card, and you have to go out of your comfort zone to go and meet people and tell them about yourself.
Right.
If you go back to my story at Chocho, I'm sitting at the bar, there's a DJ, there's music, you're talking to people, so you're in more of your comfort zone, and I believe a lot of people are more comfortable in that setting, but it's just not taking for granted any conversation that you have. You know, me and you could be having a conversation right now, something, you know, you might have said today that doesn't, you know, click or have anything to do, but maybe 2 weeks down the road, somebody is looking for somebody with your profile, and I'll say, you know what, I met that person. So the biggest advice I have is never say no to meeting anybody. You know, a lot of people will ask me, you know, let's go for coffee, and I'll say, you know what does this, I don't say that anymore, but in my head before I used to say, what does she want from me, or what does he want from me?
Right.
You know, you'll always think this is what it is, but most of the time, there's always something. Steve Jobs said something, and I always say that quote. He says, you can never connect the dots. You always connect the dots backwards. So eventually, you'll always say, oh, when we sat down then, do you remember when we said that? Look at us now.
So true.
You know, so just opening up to meeting people, this is for me what networking is. And, you know, Chalhoub Group, I met them when I first moved here in 2002. And back then, they weren't retailers. They were distributors. And I was a retailer. So it didn't really happen. You know, everything eventually then, you know, opens itself at the right time.
So two things. So let's go. When someone, how are you now? Because like I said before, when I did a little introduction or talked about you, you know, because you're such a powerful person, right? Not just a woman, like just in general, like a powerful person. And I asked around a little bit about you, and there's literally not one person who said anything negative about you. And it's always like, man, this woman is powerful, and this woman is this. And it's like just beautiful things. But you have your network, and you have your network, yes. Are you still open to meeting new people?
Yes, all the time.
All the time?
It's interesting you say you're powerful. I don't know what that means, to be honest. But
to me, powerful means you walked, like just today, you walked up, everyone was quiet, everyone looked at you, and also powerful that no one says anything negative about you. That to me is powerful.
Thank you.
You see what I'm saying? So, and I think everyone agrees with me, but yeah.
Thank you. That's very kind. Honestly, I think that what you mentioned before, asking people about me, I think one's reputation is probably the most important thing one has.
Right.
Because like you said, and this is something I used to also tell my teams, and especially women that are, you know, women are a lot better at being out there and doing their thing. But, you know, I come from a time where I know a lot of women used to shy away from it. And I used to tell them, decision makers, if they're sitting at a table and your name comes up, they better know who you are. Because this is what makes a difference. Because if they've heard about you, if they've seen you. So reputation is your brand, right? Your brand is what people say about you when, you know, you're not in the room. Like, what are people saying about you?
Right.
I was not always probably I was not always kind, or people never said some bad things about me. I think there was a point in my career, to be honest, where I was really looking to just, I was such a high, I just wanted to achieve. I wanted to prove to myself and to the world. I wanted to prove to my parents. I wanted to just, and there comes a point when you don't reflect on your behavior, or when you don't sit down and look back at how far you've come and be humble about it, that can drive you negatively. And when I decided to step down after COVID to take a break, there was an article that was written in Vogue Arabia about it. And I had posted it on LinkedIn to sing, and the article was a beautiful article, that Katerina from Vogue Arabia back then wrote. And it said that, right now I don't want to climb anymore, I just want to belong.
Ooh,
and
that was good.
And I posted that article on LinkedIn. Wow. And I got a few messages. Because I was vulnerable in the article, I gave permission to people to be vulnerable back. So I got a few messages from people I don't even remember, telling me that they had a bad experience with me in meetings.
No way.
I swear. And one of them reminded me, she said, you came into the meeting. It was during my days when we were building level shoes. And we were meeting so many different suppliers. I didn't like the collection. Okay, and again, our industry, the fashion luxury industry, used to pride itself on, being, being very exclusive and very, blasé,
Yes.
and etc. And I don't deny the fact that I played that role for a bit. I was immature. I was probably very, really thought I was it,
Right.
and I walked in, but there was this young girl in the room, and I can't remember the details, but I remember not being nice. She
Right.
remembers me not being nice.
Right.
And when she sent me that message, look at me now, this is like 5 years on, and I still remember that message. So it's only when you open up that people open up to you, but then you learn and you kind of develop yourself. So this is why I asked you, what's power?
When you talk about just that, and it throws me back into when I started my brand, I was mean as well.
Yeah.
But I was mean because I wanted people like you to see me. And it was hard for people like you in the past, I'm going to say, to see me. Now I understand why you couldn't really see me back then, but I would be so mad all the time because I was like, I have everything it takes, and I have the products, I have the drive, I have everything. Why don't you guys see us, right? That comes from the smaller brand, the brands who are just trying out, right? And I love that you owning it up, that you're like, you know what, there was time where I was not that nice because the environment didn't let me. And I see that now when you're saying that to me, like, it makes a lot of sense, right? I'm seeing it from the other side and you're seeing it from this side. So how was it for you when you were working at Chalhoub? Like, because again, they're such a powerful company and I just love everything about them. Like, how was it for you working there and then making the decision to say, you know what?
I need a break.
Yes, I need a break.
Look, I worked for 15 years with Chalhoub Group.
Wow.
Probably the best years of my career. And working there was always, I'm a very, very curious person. I love learning. I love projects. I love to do things from A to Z and hand over something. I'm not somebody you can give a 9 to 5 that could just be, the same thing every day.
Right.
I thrive on challenges. I don't know if this is, I always say to myself, it's because, I have a Palestinian father that I'm just always fighting for something or to be seen or to be, there. But I also was in an environment of risk-taking, entrepreneurship. This is the environment, at the time, the CEOs of the organization were Patrick Chalhoub and Anthony Chalhoub, who, God rest his soul, he passed away a few years ago. And they were just these type of people, right? So I fit in the environment. You know, when they tell you you're a culture fit in an organization, it's that's so important. I didn't know that then. Nobody talked about culture back then. Nobody, you know, whatever. I just walked into it. And I never walked in thinking this is, wow, such a big company, such a powerful company. I just wanted to do what I love to do. And I genuinely, I started working on the shop floor at the age of 16 in Montreal.
Wow.
You know, so I'm a sales girl. I'm a retail. I'm a fashion girl. I do fashion shows. So for me, it was never thinking about, oh my God, this company is so big and I'm going to get places. No. I'm going to do what I love, you know, and when I worked with Ralph Lauren, I got to travel the world. I was in Milan every month.
I love that. The stories. I want to know the stories.
I just like, you know, a young girl that gets these opportunities. And I worked in an environment that was very, that would recognize and reward people that are passionate and that want more, right? Like you're saying, but I'm doing everything. Nobody's seeing it. No, there you do everything and people were seeing it. And I always talk about this, and you know they're a very, very humble family, and you don't see them a lot boasting about, you know, themselves. But my mentor, although he wasn't my direct manager back then, but I always looked up to him, and eventually he became my direct manager. You know, was the CEO of the organization, who now became the chairman, Patrick Chalhoub. And I always say that a good leader will see potential in somebody and give them the chance based on what they have achieved. Okay, that the potential, you look at it, okay, if she was able to do this, she has a potential to do more. So let me give her a chance. Versus a lot of organizations that would look at somebody that has done what they're hiring for.
Right.
You know, so everything I took within the organization was not something I've ever done before. So after Ralph Lauren, I was given the chance to work with the group and with a big group of experts within the group on creating the first concept store like of that size in the Middle East and maybe the world, which is Level Shoes, you know, the largest and the most exclusive footwear, luxury footwear department store in the world. And, you know, 5 years into that, we continued innovating and doing things and whatever. And then eventually I was given the chance to become the chief transformation officer for the group.
What does that mean?
So we were, you know, the world was changing so much with digital, with social media, with e-commerce, with the younger generation coming on, with technology. So, you know, the job was to create a team to support the organization to move from being more of a traditional retailer to, you know, what we called back then hybrid. So really everywhere, anywhere, every touch point. It's much bigger than that, and it was probably my PhD in retail and luxury. But it was also one of the most difficult times I had on a personal level, and therefore why I needed a break after it.
So but when you were working at Chalhoub, you were not a buyer at one point, right? Or were you?
So look, with Inditex, when I worked for Azadea, the way the Inditex group works is that the shop managers buy.
Right.
You know, so you're always touching the buys.
Right.
When I was at Chalhoub, when I was running the Ralph Lauren division, we managed the buying of our clients. So we were in the buying cycle. So the amazing thing about the opportunities I got in Dubai, because it was so new, most people had a 360 experience. So you were never put, because the companies were not mature enough yet. Everything was being built, that you weren't just a marketing person or you weren't just a commercial person. So since a very young age, I had to touch all facets of the actual business. So even as a brand manager for Bershka, I managed the stores, the visual merchandising, the marketing, and the financial and supply chain. You know, so, and that continued throughout my career. So I always had such a, you know, a big, now that the companies are maturing a lot more, you see that specialities are being, you know, probably more needed. because things are built, the foundations are there. But we were entrepreneurs. We were, people that just get stuff done.
Right.
You know, it's.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well. I wanted to see, from a brand perspective, asking for a friend.
Yeah.
If someone like a new brand, because I know you have probably all the top luxury brands underneath Chalhoub. But if someone like, let's say, like a brand like me, who are just like starting in this region, I mean, we are in the US selling at Macy's and like other retailers, but how does someone that is not a luxury brand get to be signed with you? Like, let's say you working back then.
I'm no longer
not
at
anymore
Chalhoub,
there.
but I can speak in general, not just Chalhoub, right? All other retailers and etc. There is a very, look, in general, it's very hard for brands today to be seen and to be taken on board if there isn't already a market test.
Right.
What you'll find, and I'll speak about my experience at Level, for example, we had always left a small budget for new brands that we discover.
Right.
Because the bulk of your budget is going to go for the bestsellers, we know, because a buyer is going to buy and is going to be measured on how successful his buy or her buy is. So they don't like taking too many risks. But the right retailer or the right company will say, no, 20% of your budget has to be risk, because this is how you bring in novelty and you bring in things. Sephora, for example, because when they first opened, nobody wanted to give them their brands. So the Chanels and the Dior's and whatever of this world didn't give them brands. So they built their model on up-and-coming brands.
Right.
And that's how they made it, right?
Right.
So, and then these up-and-coming brands became mega brands because of that model.
Right.
So it's really just important to be discovered somehow. Because knocking on doors to just say, this is my brand, I could fall in love with the brand, but what is the digital footprint? Who is wearing it? Is TikTok talking about it? Is some people from the community seeing it, etc.
Right.
You could be making, 2,000 dirhams a month as a turnover, but if, the who's of the community, that matters. When I say who's, it's not the people that are necessarily, the ones with income or whatever, but if just the right target is talking about it, I'm going to go ask about it. And I want to have it because I want to be the first, just like Sephora did. I want to be the first to carry it. And I might ask you for exclusivity, so that I know that.
So two things. What if a brand who doesn't have all the followers, but created a brand to make it different, but is not getting into the retailers because they don't have the digital footprint?
Yeah.
Like, how can they go about that? Because nowadays, even building your social media, it's so much money. It's not like how it used to be. Like, you will post something and then you will go viral. But if someone who doesn't want to follow that game, because I see it as a game. So for me, for example, I have my own skincare. Right now, I'm focusing on the luxury spas, right? That's my thing. And I see a lot of people are not, there's a huge market in that a lot of brands are not taking.
True.
And I am positioning ourselves as a luxury because we're coming from the 5-star, but it's like more also hip, like the Imars, the Hiltons, the St. Regis. Because when I started my brand, I didn't start my brand to become a TikToker or an Instagrammer. Like, I created the brand because I wanted to make a difference. And I feel like nowadays, and correct me if I'm wrong, most of the retailers don't care about that. It's all about how many followers, like who's wearing it, who's talking about it, all that stuff. And then we talk about how great your brand really is. And for me, this is so frustrating. I'm like, dude, like I'm not going to do the dances just for me to sell your product. You know what I mean? So how is a person like me going about that? Maybe I'm totally wrong.
You're not wrong. I think what you're saying, and I've worked, after I left Chalhoub, I started my own advisory, and I worked with a lot of brands, such as yours. And if you have a story, and again, I don't know how much of that you've developed yet, but if you as a brand have a story and you're telling the story,
Right.
eventually the right partner that aligns with the values that you have will come along.
Right.
And this is what's right. The thing is that sometimes we force, and again, like I talk about culture fit or whatever, it's the same thing.
Right.
Maybe you don't want to be with some of these companies, right?
Right.
Maybe that's not the right mix for you. Maybe
Right.
your values align more with a big hospitality group.
Right.
There's one brand that I've always, followed and mentored a little bit over the years, and they never presented themselves. They said, first time I met them, they said, we're nomads. I'm like, okay, but fine. And we always laugh about that because this is really the essence of what they are. And then they created their brands and their product around that, right? From leather goods to fragrances to home scents, etc. And eventually they followed that route. They didn't look at going with the big retailers. They went into, hospitality and hotels and small boutiques, concept stores, and now they just opened yesterday a beautiful store. They're called Montreuil, a beautiful store in Al Cercal. And throughout the years, they built their community based on exactly who they were, and they did not budge on that. Today, the one and only, carries their product in all the one and onlys.
Love that.
Yeah, as an amenity. So they could have kept on trying to go to Mr. Porter, which they did, but that wasn't the right fit for them, I think. The right fit for them wouldn't have been a Sephora because they would be lost with so many other brands.
Yes.
So it's really just understanding the values. And you talk about followers, I speak about community. Because if your woman is a woman that goes to spas, if that's who she is, and if she sees your product, she'll get very attached to it.
Right.
If I go to, people used to go, I don't know what happened with Burj Al Arab, but back then we all, were like, oh, Burj Al Arab, Burj Al Arab. But Burj Al Arab was known because they had Hermes, product in their rooms. And everybody was like, yay, I'm going to get some Hermes product today.
Right.
But it's a positioning. Right? You're saying this is who my community is.
Yeah. For us, it's like what I'm building is my brand is more about wellness.
Yeah.
So it's all about wellness, spirituality, and ethical sourcing. And I want to go more into that. Like that's what the team is right now is building the community that's missing. But another thing that after you left Chalhoub, which this is why I wanted to ask you a few questions about that. So after you left Chalhoub, you became an ICF. It's an executive coach.
Yeah.
You have to tell me a little bit more about what that means. But you talked a lot about personal branding.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've been hearing so much lately. It's all about personal branding. But I haven't really found anyone who could really explain to me what that means. And I can tell you, it's not just me, like so many people don't know what it means, a personal branding. Like, do I have to be on TikTok and Instagram all the time? Like, what does that mean? And why did you make the decision to leave the corporate world and do something on your own?
Look, the leaving the corporate world was because I had finished my mission, which was, we said the transformation was going to be over a certain number of days. COVID got us all to stay home for a very long time. I realized that how taking a step back was so needed for me. I had gotten to a point where I was, I was not focused anymore. I was always on the, the fight or flight mode all the time. And that was not sustainable for me because I have 2 young daughters. I have an amazing husband. I have aging parents. I really wanted to be there. I didn't want to do this. And I had been working nonstop for more than 20 years. And I had the opportunity to stop a little bit, and take a break because my partner works, and we were in a good, stable situation. So that's how I stopped. I didn't stop because I wanted to be a coach. I didn't stop because I wanted to start, managing small brands and helping them. I stopped because I needed to breathe. And when I took that time, the first 6-7 months, and we were talking about this, me and you, it was all about self-healing. It was all about reflecting on looking back on, whoa, what was that? You know, it was just like,
Right.
oh my God, 20 years went by. I had not stopped and thought. And I'm a very, very creative person. But you cannot be creative if there's no room for you to be creative. And that's, you know, creativity is in your brain, it's in your head. So if your head is constantly engaged in other things, you
Right.
can't take that step. So I owed it to myself and to my family to honestly do that. And I think it was the best thing I ever did. Most difficult decision was a very scary decision, because when you're somebody that has always planned everything and that was always, you know,
Right.
it's hard to go into the unknown, you know. And then what I realized is, because during COVID I did a lot of talks and whatever, I used my social media a lot to talk about things. And I realized that it was impacting people and people were coming back to ask things. I offered people half an hour, you know, kind of a coaching, like just a free one to just talk and, you know, for me to mentor. And I realized that I loved it. So I told myself, you know what, let me get accredited, let me do the courses. It was 2021, so we were still doing a lot of
Right.
Zooms and people were still not seeing everyone or traveling. And then I started coaching, not as a business as such, whenever people would come and say, we need coaching. And what I found is that I attracted women that were very similar to me. So I don't think I have coached a single man. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. They all came to me. They were not far from my age. They were also at a transition. They were having doubts about if they're fulfilled or not. Some of them wanted to also leave the corporate world. They were scared. So it was a lot of this. And
Right.
I was so lucky to be put in these situations. They don't know, a lot of these women, and hopefully if they listen to this, they don't know how much I learned from them and how much I gained from that. And it changed me, you know, it really changed me
In what way?
as a person. It made me appreciate the smaller things a lot more. You know, these are the things that, you know, I was not making, you know, major income at all. I was not, you know, I wasn't traveling and, you know, doing all of that, but yet I was so much more fulfilled after these meetings. And then when I watch them over the years and I see, okay, she's doing this, she's applying it, gets me to the point of personal branding, because a lot of these women said exactly what you said. And for me, what you're doing right now is personal branding. You know,
Right.
starting your podcast, for people that meet you or see your picture or read your story, it's only one part of who you are. People will never know the other part unless you do something to tell them how you think. You know, who are the people that you're around? Like, what do you do?
Right.
What do you love? Being vulnerable is personal branding. Being able to put yourself out there. And I always tell people, men and women, personal branding, okay, I'm super confident to be up on stage and talk and do things because I was pushed by my mom since I was like 5 to do this stuff. And I come from a generation of people that think that being extroverted is confident, you know?
Right.
Which is like, you know, my husband is an introvert and he's 100 times more confident than I am.
I always
You know?
thought the people who are loud
Yeah, exactly.
are the confident one. And then I realized, no, it's actually not. It's
I have so much respect and admiration for the quiet, strong type because I'm loud.
Me too. Me too. And Robin, my husband,
Yeah.
is so...
Yeah.
He's the quiet one. Like, you cannot really see or understand like what he
Exactly.
thinks. That to me is powerful.
Yeah, and when
Yeah.
I'm in a meeting and I see somebody that's super quiet and you never know what they're thinking and I'm like, okay, how did this person hold himself or
Right?
herself from, you know, expression? So with that in mind, I always tell people personal branding does not need to be the same for everybody. But you cannot decide unless you know that you just want to live on an island alone
Right.
and this is your life, that, you know, who cares about personal
Right.
branding? But if you want to build a network, if you want people to notice you, if you really want things, you need to find what you're good and comfortable with and do it.
But how does someone go ahead? Sorry, go
No,
ahead.
no. One of the things that now that I just remembered, some of these women, very successful women that I
Right.
coached or that I worked on the personal branding with, were maybe in their mid 40s or early 40s, had never had a personal photo shoot done.
Wow.
They had their corporate things, that they do in the whatever they do Instagram, but they never had a photographer, a videographer, or whatever makeup done, the nice clothes, and when we did a few of those, that alone empowers you so much. I have a friend that once told me, I don't like to take talks because I don't know what picture to send them. I don't have a bio. How can you not have a bio? This is, and you trust me, ask people, see how many people don't have a bio.
About themselves?
Yeah.
I don't have a bio.
Well, you should have a bio.
I have a bio about the brand, but I don't have a bio
You have
about...
to have a personal bio.
Right there.
And your personal bio is
That is
literally
so
just,
true.
And I find that if somebody's asking me about you and I WhatsApp a small PDF, which is your bio, khalas, there's something, it's not your CV, because your CV is just your work and you're not just your work. And nobody puts on CVs hobbies and stuff like this. But imagine, I don't know, it could be, I don't know, a talk that you've done, or it could
Right.
be something that marked you. But it's important.
That
to
is
have
so good.
Yeah.
Did you guys know that? That is so good. I need to get that. So, okay, so let's say someone
Yeah.
comes to you. They have their company or whatever, but what are the steps to start a personal brand? I'm sure it's for everyone, it's different, but...
So
where-
it's what we said. I want to have images of you
Right.
that you love, that you
I
feel
love that.
confident, because it builds your confidence. When you do, I want to have a bio that reflects you. Depending on how much you've done, we've created websites for people. Websites that have some of the articles you've written, some of the projects that you've done in your own words, some of the press that was there about you. It's really that. And then obviously you can get coached on how, to speak in certain situations,
Right.
but that's not personal branding for me. It's not about how you speak. It's just about how you present yourself. And today in such a digital world, you just, fine, you can ask about someone and their reputation is definitely the biggest part of their,
Right.
but you can express yourself in your own way, visually, through your bio and your own words. Another thing, and I think LinkedIn is used for the wrong things, LinkedIn is an unbelievable platform for people to put more of their thoughts, and skills through writing.
Okay, so it's interesting that
Yeah.
you're saying this, because I literally had the conversation with Dia, who is my marketing manager, and we talked about LinkedIn yesterday, and I was like, what am I posting on LinkedIn? Like, I can't post like how I'm sitting and eating lunch.
No.
Like, what is LinkedIn all about? And I feel like a lot of people have it wrong when it comes to LinkedIn. Like, coach me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say,
Yeah.
I have my own brand, I'm an entrepreneur, I have my own podcast. What am I doing on LinkedIn?
I mean, look, the most important thing anywhere is for you to understand what audience, okay? Because each platform has its type of audience,
Right.
right? And LinkedIn is a professional audience, okay? Professional, it could be potential partners for you, it could be potential employees, it could be your own employees that want to feel proud that they work for
Right.
you. And, you're attracting certain areas. So why do I go on LinkedIn? Okay, not as a why do I go and read things on LinkedIn? And what makes me stop? I'm not going to go on LinkedIn to see the latest fashion tips, right? I'm not going to go on LinkedIn to probably see the latest travel destinations. I'm going on LinkedIn because I'm interested in what's happening in the market and in what's happening in the job market, what's happening in leadership, what's happening in industries like podcasting, like the beauty, like whatever.
Right.
So if I'm there to just say, oh my God, I had such a great day, okay, and I put a picture of me, I don't know, meeting you, and a stranger that's looking at this post, I'm going to be like, okay, what did I learn from this?
Right.
You could do that on Instagram because people like to follow your life and they want to see your style and whatever. But on LinkedIn, they need to learn something about it. So I think that the biggest mistake people do on LinkedIn is that they don't understand their audience, and their audience is there to know, okay, so me and you met, and we discussed one, two, three. And on the back of this, I think that the podcast industry is really such an amazing place. For example, you said to me earlier, I love podcasting because this is my time for meeting people, because I am a people's person, but I also like to stay home. And that alone, this kind of conversation is super interesting, right? Because then other podcasters that are on LinkedIn could be like, oh my God, I relate so much. This is exactly what I'm doing. Or another person will come to you and say, I'd love to be on your podcast. But they got to know something about you that is a little bit deeper than I'm a podcaster. So that's one thing. But again, it's really thinking about the psyche of the people and what their behavior is when they go on it. And the other thing is...
That was really good, actually.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, again, LinkedIn is I think, underutilized.
Wow.
But one thing also is if you're building a business,
right,
it's you need to be regular also on it. You need to be regularly posting.
Oh, regularly posting.
Yeah, it's important, like everything else. Like for me, since a year now, I'm working with a media organization, and because I'm so busy, I found myself posting less and less.
Right.
And I feel bad about it because I really like that. So you need to post at least twice a week, for example. You need to be consistent.
But how do you, okay, so
to build your personal brand, you need to be consistent. It can't be like, hey guys, this is who I am and whatever, and you touch people's hearts and people want to follow you, and then you disappear for 6 months.
That's me.
Yeah.
That's literally me, and I'll tell you why. Because I always feel so weird.
See, everybody says that. How can you feel weird talking when you have a podcast? Look at you.
But this is like, I focus more on the people, less on me.
Yeah, but that's how you need to think, because even if you're speaking to a screen, you're not speaking to yourself. You're speaking to people.
I know.
And when you're writing, other people are reading it. My husband, who's a lawyer, who's not really into social media, recently, and he grew up in a household of academics and writers and etc. And his father wrote a book, his grandfather wrote a book, etc. Recently, I don't know how, out of the blue, he started wanting to write articles about legal articles about stuff, and he became very regular on LinkedIn. Since he wrote his first article on LinkedIn, it got published in 2 publications. They reached out, they published it. He got an opportunity to be on a panel, a legal panel, to discuss, what was there. And I think next week he's teaching at AUD a class on contracts and stuff like that.
Oh, that's amazing.
So this is what I mean by personal brand, right? Nobody knew who Anwar was. I mean, people would know him through his sports, like his triathlon buddies all knew him. But as a lawyer, he never positioned himself with his personal brand.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. And he's definitely not somebody that will go and do a video on it, but he wrote his articles. It was the right platform, and his other legal counterparts or that industry or that circle were interested in that. I wouldn't read it, maybe. It wouldn't be my thing, but there's a place for everyone.
So where do you see social media going, and where do you see the personal brand going?
Look, the thing is that social media on its own, it's not just, for me, it's just digital, right? In general, where social media today has become where you get your news, okay? So forget about what, the fashion aspect of things and the fun aspect of things and the gimmicky aspect of things. My kids get their news from TikTok. TikTok is they're trying to ban it because of in the US, because of the impact it had politically.
Right.
People were able to take over power from certain governing bodies because they're like, no, we don't need you to stop us from talking. When we have dinner every day with each other, the 4 of us, and before my husband has read his articles, my girls tell him what happened because it was the thing they saw on TikTok. We're talking about if, I don't know, if Trump won. And yeah.
Interesting.
So social media for me is literally all of a sudden democratizing, news, giving people power where they didn't. And apparently more and more, I don't know if it's Gen Z or the generation after, but also Gen Z are not wanting to to just go with the conventional rules of work, because now they know with digital and social media they can achieve so much
Right.
without having to get through the traditional
Right.
channels that we've all been through before.
Right.
So I don't know. And now AI is just
That's another level.
Yeah, absolutely. But you don't understand, for me, for example, and I know for my brother, and I know for a lot of people, it's making us so much faster in so many things.
After, having your own company, because I asked you right before, you said, yeah, well, actually, now you went back into the corporate world
I
again.
I have.
What made you that
Yeah.
decision to go back? And you're working for...
I'm
what is it?
working for a big media organization based in Abu Dhabi called IMI.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so we have a network of news platforms. We also have an academy, and we have an investment arm that invests in production, and we have creative teams that produce content makers, etc. Yeah.
And then what is your work or job exactly in
So
that?
I had the brand and marketing of the organization at a group level.
Okay.
A lot of people were very shocked how I left the luxury world to move to a completely different industry. But I didn't feel there was a very big shift or change, because when you reach a certain level of work, you don't look at the product anymore. It all becomes around brand, and what you're
Okay.
trying to achieve is two things: creating a brand that is powerful and attractive enough to attract talent, audiences or customers, and to retain your people. And this is really for me the most important thing about brand, be it a bank, be it a fashion house, be it a media house. So I took on this role because it was a transformation role as well. It was
Right.
a company that's trying to reach a certain goal. There was a new CEO, and he approached me, and I decided to join the corporate world because of the person and the vision versus, what title will I have, or, what am I going to,
To get...
yeah.
So when you said you follow, or you said yes because of the person and the vision, who is the person and what's the vision?
So again, like I told you, when I took my break from corporate for a couple of years, and I reflected and worked on myself and did a lot of healing and did a lot of, research inwards, I realized that it's very important for me. Second half, no, I'm not going to say second half. I believe we have 3 acts. In my second act of life, I really want to prioritize healthy and authentic relationships in my life.
Oof.
Yeah. And
That's a good one.
Yeah, and that's very important for me with work, because I really go in with a full heart. I don't just go in usually with my head. And so the decisions that I took to join this role was because there was a very ambitious, I like challenges, I like big ambitions. I like dreamers. I like people that are, and I love learning. I still love learning. So when I told myself, oh my God, okay, I'm 47 now. I joined last year, so that's 46. Yeah.
Wow, man, you look
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah. Alhamdulillah, you know what? I was at J-Lo's concert yesterday.
Excuse me?
Woman of these, this generation.
Wow.
Khalas, we're not going to sit and say
Amazing.
we still have a lot to achieve.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah. So and learning, for me to say, oh my God, I never thought that at this point in my life I'll be learning a completely new industry. I thought that was it. I was set. Rania was known that she's, in fashion, in luxury, in retail, in beauty, and whatever. But that was me, right? I was pegged as that. But I also believed it because I've been doing it since I was 16. But then and this is how life happens, right? And I met him, and he was, putting together his executive team, and I saw that he seemed genuine, and I was right, and he seemed human, but he also seemed like somebody that was not going to stop until he achieved what he wanted. And now I'm there for a year, and so not that long, but we've it's just been a good moment. Obviously, I had, like I've always said, when it comes to corporate world, when you have a team that depends on you, when you have a boss, when you have deadlines, your life has to start shifting again.
That is so true. There's two things that I want to say. We're talking about personal brand, or like brand in general, and staying true to who they are and what they believe. And one thing that I have to say is I want to say thank you to our sponsors, Mokha. They are so incredible. The team behind it, Garfield, the person behind it, his vision. And when I was talking to the crew and the team, when I met with them, I just absolutely fell in love with them, because like you were reading, or the guy was telling you, they support women-owned farms. They are very ethically sourced, and they give you an experience. Like when you come in, you feel like you're in a different world, and this is why I was dying to be here and be able to shoot also with you, because I felt like it's such a beautiful thing when we talk about personal brand, and you said like you want that authentic partnership, if it's in real life or with working, and that to me is what this brand is all about. And
so this is what you're doing, is you're associating your personal brand with the values and the brand positioning of Mokha.
Yes.
And that's when it works. That's really when it works. When it's forced, it doesn't.
It's just that, and I hope, like, I would love to invite you and your husband to come back and do the whole experience, because this is literally just 5% of what they have. And again, I just want to say thank you so much to Mokha. You guys are amazing, incredible. I love the girls behind it, Sigrid and Gabriela. You guys are incredible. And also thank you to Garfield. And one thing that I love about them too is they have something for you. So Dia, if you can please.
Thank you.
This is so beautiful. Again, just
love
an
a beautiful
experience.
box, first of all. I love me and unboxing. Oh, wow. Elevate your coffee experience with art and science. Love it. Oh, look how beautiful this is.
One of my favorite coffee. I'm not
This
lying.
is so cool.
Like,
this is
it's
which
so
one?
good.
The Jamaican? This is
No,
the
that's the
Colombia
Colombia.
geisha.
When I have my cappuccino,
I can't
that's
wait
what I
to
have.
try this. I love this.
Look at the packaging and everything. It's so pretty.
Can I open
that
this?
one. Yes.
Oh, this is this.
I don't know.
Yeah, I
Open
think
it.
so. I swear to God, I'm going to start drinking all my coffees in the morning this way.
I just feel so bougie, and I love it.
Ya Allah, I love that word, bougie. I love it, because my Lulu, my like younger one, she was saying bougie, and her dad was like, "What's bougie?" He had no clue what that meant.
Oh my God. Every time I come here and I have that experience, I'm like, that's right.
But so, where did this start? I had never seen this before. Like, is that common that there's an experience where you drink coffee, or is it like unique to Mokha in a glass like that? It has my name on it.
Isn't it so pretty?
I love that. Thank you.
They are, what I love about them is they are the real OGs. Like everything, they're trendsetters. Like it's literally
chocolate too.
Just everything about them.
I love it. Well, thank you. I'm so thankful. This is amazing.
Do you want to take it for? There's more?
Yeah. Oh, nice. A cold brew coffee.
Not gonna lie, I'm not gonna say it. I'll tell you later what I did with that coffee.
This I love.
You want to take it from her? So yes, thank you so much for letting us shoot here. and having this conversation. One last thing that I wanted to ask you before we stop, where you have to come back. I have so many more questions. Someone who is watching right now and wants to go after, their dream, but is shy and doesn't know what to do, what would you tell them if she or he is listening right now?
First of all, one of the most important things that I've found in my life that we can control, that nobody else controls, unless you're at home and you're still a kid, is the environment that you live and work in. I have found that by leaving Montreal, as much as I adore my Montreal family, I love you guys, but it changed me as a person.
Wow.
Coming here, being in this environment was very important. So shy or not shy, this is something that anybody can do. The friends that I chose to be around, the partner that I chose in my life, and now more and more is be around people that can see you, that really see you, right? Because if you're shy, that's what you want. You don't have to be, like we said before, somebody that's just like super extroverted, that's in order for people to see you. And, I get so emotional at this because my beautiful 15-year-old daughter is quite shy. But I'm not going to say but, and she's super kind, and she's super smart, and she's just such a joy, and I know that she wants to go, after things, and I know that that's what I'm going to push her to do as much as possible, is always choose the people that will bring out the best in her, so that she can feel comfortable enough to be herself. Because you're shy when you're reserved, it's not just because you're shy. Nobody's shy. I can be shy in so many situations. It's just being comfortable. So the belonging versus the fitting in, always find your belonging.
Oh, that was so good. I just want to say thank you. I mean, just meeting you in person now, you leveled up very high. I cannot wait to have you back and have some more conversations with you. And I hope you see and understand the impact that you leave behind people that you meet.
Thank you.
I really mean it.
Thank you.
And I like I said, I could talk to you for a very long time, which we are going to.
Yes.
But I'm gonna say cheers.
Thank you.
To us. And thank you guys.